I think Suzanne Lambert is going to be my new best friend because I am obsessed with her TikTok. And listen, Suzanne, I got to tell you, when TikTok was, in the threat of going away, I was like thinking about all the people who I would miss, and one of them would be you. So welcome.
Oh my God, that's the best welcome ever. The obsession is so mutual. So excited to be here.
Oh, thank you. So you have become, I have seen your transition over time on TikTok, and I actually really admire it, and just on social media. Um, we'll talk about what you have, Republican makeup, and I think that really sort of catapulted you. Was that like a big boost for you?
Yeah, that along with the Regina George liberal video
Yeah.
were the start that set everything in motion.
Yeah. And so we'll get to that. And I think, look, she's going to give us a demonstration on how you actually do Republican makeup, the Regina
Yes.
George, and all that stuff. So, but you were just on TikTok, tell your story, doing on social media, just doing your thing, right? And then
Yeah.
something happened. Someone, texted you, or someone DM'd you, or put a comment on one of your posts, and you're like, I've had enough.
Yeah, pretty much. So, really, up until last fall, I was super casual with what I was posting. It was pretty sporadic, and there was no kind of cohesion, right? I would talk about my favorite French fries from fast food places, like just nonsense mostly. And I would post political content, but really, I didn't necessarily see a place for my voice in the conversation. And I was of the mindset of like, well, leave it to the experts, right? There are people out there who can better speak to these things than me, and it's better that I just boost and support their content rather than making my own. And that post-election changed for me. I just had a shift in my mindset because some of the messaging I was wanting to see about fighting back and we're not going to take this, lying down, I just wasn't seeing it in the way that I wanted to see it. So I decided to post and say, I think we need to get meaner. I think we need more Regina Georges out there. Not all of us are a Miss Rachel. We love Miss Rachel, right? But that's not me. That's not who I am. And I think there is value in that. And that is a gift too.
Explain what a Regina George liberal is. You said she was going viral for being a Regina George liberal. That's what the
Yeah.
headline of the Washington Post says. Explain to us what that means.
Yeah. So a Regina George liberal is someone who fights back, right? And she can fight a little dirty. She is a mastermind. She can advocate for herself and for others. And what people forget about Regina George is because a lot of the replies I get are, well, we remember what happened to Regina at the end because she gets hit by a bus, right? I'm like, no, but that's actually not the end. After that, she fully recovers. She meets other women via the lacrosse team. And I actually also played lacrosse. I have a lacrosse stick in my trunk as we speak, which is just ironic. She met people on the lacrosse team where she could channel her energy and her anger, and they won a bunch of championships, right? So I think people forget that she wasn't done and she wasn't out when she got hit by the bus. She figured out how to move forward. And I feel like what we're doing right now is we're making our lacrosse team, right? And we're gathering and we're channeling our anger into productive ways.
You kind of the timing was everything for you, because I think out in the world, people wanted Democrats to be more Regina George, and to fight back and to fight dirtier, as you say. And I think that Democrats in Washington, meaning lawmakers, didn't quite get it. But the
You're
folks
totally
out
right.
in the world on the streets, they were like, can you guys start fighting back and being more Regina George?
You're totally right. And I couldn't agree more about the timing. I think if I had posted that prior to the election, I don't think it would have landed because I think we were still very hopeful. I was super hopeful prior to the election, and people were, I think, very cautious and hesitant, walking on eggshells. So I think if I posted it prior, because people will ask me, well, why are you just now posting about it? I'm like, y'all weren't ready for me prior to the election, right? It wouldn't have worked. And even now, as I'm starting to meet with more members of Congress, and they've been great about letting, creators like me in to talk to them and give them ideas and even film, some of them are still like very hesitant. Are you sure? Are you sure this is what people want? I don't know how this is going to go over. And a lot of
Really?
it is me telling them, no, I promise. Look at my comment section. They want y'all to be mean. They love it.
So tell me more about that, because look, in the comments and the sort of focus groups that I do, people are saying the exact same thing, but a
Yeah.
lot of the old guard who are in who are lawmakers are like, oh
Yeah.
God, I don't know, and they're still like on cable TV, all buttoned up with their
Yeah.
neckties or their cocktail dresses on, and
Uh-huh.
I think they want more Jasmine Crockett and AOC than that sort of buttoned up thing.
Oh yeah. They want you to feel like a human being. Jasmine, I mean, beyond the fact that she's absolutely brilliant and, gorgeous and all of those things in person, she does feel like a normal person, right? Like she feels like a real person, and a lot of them, we're only seeing them behind a podium on a debate stage
Hmm.
or in a very polished, buttoned up environment. And we're starting to see more of direct to camera shooting with them. But again, a lot of it is still just reporting on headlines. And I think what people are looking for more from politicians are politicians' own stances and thoughts and feelings on things a little bit more unfiltered. And getting them there is difficult
Yeah.
because that's not how they've been told that they can behave. And that's still often how I'm sure their consultants are telling them they shouldn't behave
Yeah.
based on some of the pushback I receive.
So, okay, well, so let's then look. There is a learning curve, and I see them trying, and I kind of laugh sometimes. I'm like, oh my gosh, they look like such a boomer trying to, because they have where's my microphone? I have it somewhere here. Let's see if I have them. That's not them, but the microphones. What did I do? I think maybe I left them with the folks. The microphones that we have, and you hold them.
Yeah, the little fuzzy.
Yeah, the little microphones, and I see them, and I'm like, oh my gosh, look how they're so cute. They're trying to do it, and they're just
I
like, so let me tell you about such and such, and I'm like, at least they're trying.
They're trying. I mean, that's huge progress. And what I tell them is y'all don't have to do this alone, right? On our side, on the left, we have art on our side, right?
Right?
We have comedians and actors and like just generally artistic people who can help you with some of this messaging. And that's the role that I'm trying to play with a few of them. And it seems to be working.
Yeah. So okay, so let's talk about learning curves, because
Yeah.
you did it, um, and you got. I think someone was in your text, and they said something about you not getting married, basically saying, maybe if you were nicer and you were a little bit more demure or whatever, you would get a husband, right? Something like that.
Uh-huh.
Explain to me what
Yeah.
happened. What was the impetus for your transition?
Yeah, how I respond to people.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because I don't talk about my husband on social media because he minds his business and he doesn't have social media. We're very different. He's like a Hank Hill, if you've ever watched King of the Hill,
Yeah.
minds his business, right? So people always assume that I'm not married or no man would ever want me, and they try to use that as if that could be the worst possible outcome in the world, right? So yeah, so one commenter said something like, good luck finding a husband. And then I, posted my wedding pictures. And the reason I respond to some of the comments the way I do is because I want people to be afraid to be outwardly hateful on the internet, right? I don't think that's something that people should feel so comfortable doing. And I also look at it as, well, if they leave this comment and I respond to them in a way that embarrasses them, because I think
Mhm.
embarrassment is a really powerful tool, maybe they're less likely to leave this comment on someone else's page with someone who could maybe not handle it as well as I can.
When someone wrote, have fun finding a husband, in the comments below her election week TikTok post, she recorded a video snapping back. She showed a photo from her wedding. He's completely obsessed with me, the 33-year-old consultant from Northern Virginia said. We're better than you. And we both make more money than you, she bragged, flashing a big smile. Did you feel empowered after that? Or were you like, you know what, this is where I'm going to go on, with this from now on?
Yeah, I felt empowered because, like, again, I feel like on the left, we've been taught to be modest and we don't punch down in the ways that they do. And I'm like, that's for the birds. Y'all talk to me like I'm some kind of loser. And I'm not. I'm actually doing really well. I just don't necessarily feel the need to talk about those kinds of things. But like don't get it twisted.
Yeah.
you know?
So here's what I loved you before, but then when I saw this, I'm like, oh my gosh, this woman is reading my mind, because I noticed that all the Republicans, because I'm out there and I see all the Republican women, or many of them, have the same look
Hmm.
and the same hair,
Yep.
the same sort of
Unconditioned.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Or they go to the same doctor, or their doctors give them that same look, right?
Bad filler. I'm like,
Okay.
y'all, I'll give you my injector's number.
Yeah.
Let me help you. Let me help you. They're fantastic.
I love
There's
that you do that. I love that you admit you have an injector, right?
Oh God, yeah. Oh, please. Yeah, I love my injectors. They're
Does your
like
forehead
family.
work?
What's that?
Does your forehead work?
It actually does. People always say I'm frozen. I'm like, I'm really not. I've just trained myself to not use my upper face so that I don't get wrinkles. But you can, yeah, I'm very expressive. I just don't. I just try not to move it as much as I can.
Okay, so you're amazing. I love your candor and I love your authenticity. And you wrote to me, you said, "Hey, I noticed that all the Republican girlies in my comments do their makeup the exact same gorgeous way." Was that sarcasm?
No, I think they look amazing.
You do? No.
Very much sarcasm, but TikTok loves to filter and flag, so you got to use the language that's allowed.
Oh, don't we know about the TikTok? We can't even say certain things. And even if we put, like today, we put up this on my live, I said something and they said, well, that could be deemed as misinformation. Maybe you should put a question mark. And I'm like, are you kidding me,
And
TikTok?
since when have they cared about that?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so it does say that you said that sarcastically about
Oh,
being
yeah, of
gorgeous, right?
course.
A week
Yeah.
later, in another video, one of several that she recorded since Trump's election that received more than 1 million views. And then you did a demonstration, right?
Yes.
Exactly how they do it. So explain to us because you said it's dry, like they've never, what did you say that
Never
we want to make sure
moisturized
that it
once in their
doesn't look
life.
like we've ever used moisturizer once in our life.
Yes, because they don't think about skincare. They just think about makeup. So they're piling on all these products that don't actually work together because they're trying to like embody the Fox News aesthetic, right? Whereas on the left, a lot of us, because we're all in community with one another, I've learned beauty tips from queer people and people of color and people with a different perspective who have knowledge that I wouldn't have, right? So you learn all these bits and pieces of information from a lot of different people, but they don't look at anyone who doesn't look like them. They certainly don't take advice from people who don't look like them for the most part. So that's how they all end up looking the same, and they all end up looking bad and matte and flat, as I call it. Very matte, very flat.
Well, I noticed when look, and I know what you mean when you say about Fox News and cable in general, but Fox News takes it to an extreme. That
Yeah.
people are so mad at. They would come
Yeah.
in the commercial break and they'd be like, "You're shiny." I'm like, "But like, my skin is shiny now. It looks fine. Like, why do I need all of that matte?" But they're like, "You need." The bosses would call and say, "Oh, John needs powder," and I'm like, "Oh my gosh." But
Yes.
but on
They
Fox
say that to
News,
me too. They're like, you look like you put Vaseline all over your face. I'm like, well, funny. I do that at night because that's an occlusive and that traps in moisture. Y'all should try it. And also, this is just what skin that has moisture looks like. You guys
yes,
wouldn't know that because you only drink Diet Coke and you don't moisturize properly. I don't know what to tell you.
water.
This is normal. Right. Exactly. This is how healthy people look.
Yeah. So they're getting their cues from the Fox News, which is all exaggerated, lashes and everything. There's nothing wrong with it, but television makeup, for the most part, if you're on news, it's exaggerated. Like
Yeah.
in person, no one should do. I don't think I'm not a woman, but I don't think anyone should look like that in person. It's a lot.
No, and especially not if you're doing it in a way where you're just trying to like, perform what you think your gender should look like. You're not doing it in an artistic way, right? Like you're just doing it because you think this is how you're supposed to look, and it's always just way too heavy. I'm like, y'all, you should be wearing 50% less makeup on your face than what you're doing right now, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's like suffocating your skin.
Can you give us a demonstration?
I
I
would
want to
love
see
to.
what do you call it? Republican makeup? Is that what you?
Republican makeup. Yeah. So before I do that, I'm going to get into character really quick with my Waffle House sweatshirt.
Okay.
Now, I do love Waffle House. Don't get me wrong. I'm from Georgia, right?
Yeah.
But that, hilariously, that was something a lot of people commented on the original video. And that actually wasn't on purpose. I just happened to be wearing this sweatshirt, but for the sake of this exercise.
I got you. I used to live in Georgia, and so I'm at Waffle
Yes.
House. There's a Waffle House there in Atlanta, and I lived in Louisiana. and Alabama. Lots of Waffle Houses, lots of
You
iHeart.
get it?
Yeah,
What's your
I'm with
Waffle
you.
House order? I'm
I'm with you.
curious.
Oh, it's always scrambled eggs, bacon, and either I get pancakes or a side or a waffle.
Yeah.
Pancakes, bacon, and very crispy hash browns, almost burnt, like really
Yes.
crispy, and lots of ketchup.
Scattered.
Yeah,
People don't know about scattered. They're sleeping on scattered.
yeah.
Okay. So I have on normal makeup right now. So I'm just gonna wipe it off because
Okay.
they don't really care about skin prep anyway, as we've talked about. Um yeah, and so remember the final look we're going for is matte, flat. We don't want a lot of dimension. We don't want color to match our skin tone. That's important. So I'll walk through that with you. So you can see without makeup on, I have pretty like reddish, cool, what would be considered cool undertones.
Yeah.
A hallmark of their look is that they love like a yellowish golden undertone, even though if your skin tone looks like mine, that is not the kind of makeup you should be using, right? So I am going to use this very, very matte foundation as a base, like a full coverage base. And what I would say about this, so if you want a full coverage look, that's fine, right? If you have an event or something like that. But the best way to do that is by building products on top of one another, but they don't do that. They just like a thick layer. And I'm actually going to cover my eyebrows because I'm going to demonstrate two different eyebrow shapes that they like to use. But I'm just using my hands here. This physically pains me, by the way. I hope you know that. This is painful for me.
That's not your color, right?
Oh, not at all. No, 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 no. It doesn't match. It's actually a little too light for me. And you can see like the
Yeah, yeah.
red right there versus like the yellow. Um, and it's not flattering and you can't tell up close, but it really like accentuates all the texture on
Yeah.
my skin because it's so thick. Okay, I'm actually gonna get some on my lips too. Oh wow. This is quite a look. Okay. So what you should do is allow time between layers. I always liken it to like you don't put wet paint on top of wet paint, right? You let paint dry. So try to like make yourself busy doing other things in the meantime, but we're not going to do that because we're in a hurry. So I am going to use
Does that mean kind of you let it set, right? A
yeah,
little bit.
like
Yeah.
give it some time to breathe. You don't just like slop a bunch of wet products on top of each other. So this is a big hallmark of their look is they always use an under eye concealer, very thick, again, very thick, but it's always like significantly lighter than their actual skin tone because that's something that you're taught looks good and makes you look more awake, but it doesn't. It just makes you look like you have raccoon eyes, right?
You kind of look like it's very Donald Trumpish.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, he's the perfect example. And word on the street with him is that, and I made a video about this too, that he actually uses color corrector all over his face. I don't know if you know about color corrector, but it's meant to neutralize. It's not meant to be a standalone color. It would be like wearing your socks on the outside of your shoes. Like it shouldn't be seen. And if it's seen, it's not doing its job. And that's apparently what he uses as a base, which is again, I'm like, can I take you to a Mac counter? I'll go with you. We can find your right shade.
So you're
It's
very light around the eyes, right?
yeah, so like super light, and I feel like, and once I put on bronzer, you'll be able to kind of tell
Yeah.
more of the differences. Okay, so for bronzer, and I'm convinced this is how Nancy Mace does her scarecrow nose contour. This is like a super, super warm bronzer that every woman who's around my age would have owned in like the early 2000s. And it's super warm toned, which isn't how you're supposed to contour. Contour is cool tones, so like ashy, like almost gray undertones, because that's what shadows look like. Again, they have no concept of undertones, so they just use like the warmest concealer or warmest bronzer possible. So I'm just gonna kind of trace.
Oh my gosh. And you call it a scarecrow nose.
It looks like the scarecrow from the Wizard of Oz. It is exactly. I have to imagine that's who she's getting her makeup inspo from. But they'll put it there. I'm gonna let it sit for a second, and then they're also always putting their bronzer super low on their like all up in here, really low. When really you want it like up here, because this just kind of makes your face look really droopy, right? And I'll blend this in so it doesn't look so crazy
With
because they're
that
not going out looking
bronzer?
like this. What's that?
That's bronzer?
This is bronzer. Yeah, right. And this can look good if you're using this much of it, and in the right places, but that is not what they're doing at all.
So you
So,
have Nancy Mason. Who else do you have that does Republican face
oh, Nancy
makeup?
Mace, Laura Loomer, Christy
Oh,
Nome.
right.
God, there's so Marjorie Taylor Greene. Hers is like a different kind of tragic. She's real big on the eyeliner. Whether or not it's in a straight line is apparently optional for her. Love that artistic freedom. Um, yeah, so this is honestly, if you look up Nancy Mace's contour, this isn't even exaggerated. This is actually probably more blended than how she does it. I just like can't help myself because this is again very physically painful for me. Um, but yeah, okay, so we have that. Now, normally I would also put this up here and then like right here. They will often just put it like here and then there's a big line of demarcation that doesn't match. So like, yeah.
We used to call that dashboard neck.
Tell me more about that.
Well, it's like a dashboard because it ends. So like you have the dashboard and then you have the rest of the car below and the
Yeah.
other thing, right? And so there's like this giant, oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah. So you can kind of see it's like it's all very low on my face, despite there being like a lot of colors. It's not actually creating any dimension or depth or interest. It's just kind of like modge podged together. Um, okay, moving on to blush. So, like I said, someone like me should be using cool tones. I'm going to use like a very warm, bright coral blush. They're big fans of that. And again, very low on the cheeks. So normally you'd want to put it up here. They're just putting it down here. It just kind of makes everything droop down.
Oh my God, it's starting to come to, I see it.
Yeah, and I mean this looks clownish, but like once it all is done, you're gonna be like, oh yeah, that looks accurate. I'm gonna put a little bit up here just
Do
cause.
you think you get away with this? I don't think maybe a woman of color could not get away with showing this demonstration. Do you know what I'm saying? Do you have a
They're
certain
actually doing them more now. They'll do like a black Republican makeup version, but I couldn't do that because I don't even, I wouldn't be able
no,
to.
but I'm saying a creator that I
Yeah.
think that you have more leeway to talk about politics and to say even more mean things about, because then they would say
Oh,
that I'm a liberal left loon or I'm an angry black man or that
oh,
whatever.
sure.
How dare you? Right? Do you
Yes.
understand what I'm saying?
Oh God, yeah. Yeah, I definitely have like a lot of privilege to be able to say these kinds of things, and I think it's also because I'm a white woman myself. They're maybe more inclined to listen to me, and I
Mhm.
can clock them because I grew up around them, right? Like I'm like, no, but this is true, and y'all know this is true. That's why you're so mad. Um, Okay, eyebrows. This is important. So I've noticed they don't like to punctuate their sentences.
Yeah.
However, they do like their eyebrows to look like assorted punctuation marks. So they do like punctuation, I guess, in one aspect. They like an apostrophe, and then they also like a downward facing parentheses. So I'm gonna demonstrate two different shapes.
Now, I
Um,
have noticed that when you're talking about the black Republican woman, there's a black Republican woman and her eyebrows are like the golden arches. It's really ridiculously crazy.
Yeah, and again, like, hey, I love a brow lift. Me and my injector are a big fan of those, but there is a way to do it properly, right? But they'll
And
make it like, what was
which one
that?
is that? Is that the apostrophe or is that
This
the
is the apostrophe, yeah. So, and it's notice how it's way too dark, right? Their eyebrows are always way too dark, very blocky. So they'll kind of do an apostrophe and then like this kind of thing, right? And I'm trying to not make it so straight.
100%?
It's like yeah, and if it's not totally cohesive, that's ideal. Some people call it the tadpole brow, right? So that's an example of an apostrophe tadpole. The other ones, there's a lady who makes videos about me, and this is exactly what hers looks like. It's just a semicircle. Oh, wait a second.
I think maybe they could be more offended by you because you can clock them in a second and you speak their language. So they may be like, "Ah, F
Oh,
her."
yeah. And then they're like, this is mean girl behavior. And I'm like, yeah, that's literally what I said I was going to do. I don't feel like you
Didn't I?
guys are hearing me. Like, and I think that that's very telling because that's something they've always relied on telling us. Like, I thought you guys were supposed to be nice and loving and peaceful. And now we're like, yeah, you were wrong.
Oh my
We're
God.
not.
Your right eyebrow looks like it is right on point. You're
This
100%
one.
right. Yes.
Yeah, so yeah, it's like the tadpole or the upside down kind of semicircle. And then to finish, so normally I would do like some highlighter, dimension. They don't do any of that. They love just an old fashioned smoky eye. So I'm gonna use my eyeshadow called gunmetal, fitting. They love those as well. Because what's more flattering than dark gray charcoal over your eyes? I've never understood that. And there's a time and place. Like Julia Fox on a red carpet can do a killer smoky eye. The time and place is not in line at the grocery store while you're waiting to argue with the teenage cashier. That's not the time for a smoky eye.
When you being a Karen.
Right. That's it's not. Okay. Then they love to finish off the eyes, and then we just have lips. Um, they love some really clumpy, spiky mascara. Gonna get a little on the lid because they never bother to clean that up either. Don't forget the bottom. They love a thick eyelash moment. Okay. And then of course eyeliner could not you can pry the eyeliner out of their cold dead hands. They will never quit their eyeliner. So I just have again, this is way darker than I would ever normally use. And this actually is just a dark brown. They would typically use black, but they do their full top and bottom, which is actually super unflattering on your eyes and it makes your eyes look smaller. So they always say not to do that. Um, and it's just like really hard. If you have a skin tone like mine, it's just like very harsh, right? For the most part. Yep. Are you
Wow.
starting to see it?
Oh, yes, I do.
This looks a little clownish. Okay. And then to finish, a lipstick that is very close to their skin tone without any kind of lip liner. So it just kind of looks like you have concealer all over your lips. So I'm just going to do and of course it's matte, right? Why would you want, heaven forbid you have a gloss on there at any point. And then I like to do the really teethy gummy smile.
I know people who look exactly like you. Oh my God.
Do I look like I'm ready to vote against your rights?
You do. And isn't there, do you have a Republican woman hairdo or no? Is that a thing?
So unfortunately, that would require extensive damage and not conditioning my hair for several years to really achieve that like static electricity texture they have. Like I feel like if you just touched their hair like this, you would hear a crunch sound. So that's why I haven't done the hair, and like my hairstylist is too good with the color, so I just don't know if it would work. Um, yeah, I would have to really fry my hair. Maybe if I just like went and put it in a frying pan for a few minutes, that might achieve the look that they have.
It
Yeah.
looks like you're going to a Daughters of a, what is it, of a Dar, what is it, the Republican
American
Revolution?
Revolution.
Yeah, American
I
Revolution.
am. That's where I'm headed actually.
I mean, it
Yeah.
does. You look like that.
Yeah. And they'll look at this and tell you that you're wrong, which I think is so funny because I'm like, if I said like, Dawn, your green shirt looks really stupid today, you wouldn't be offended because you're not wearing a green shirt. You'd be like, okay,
Yeah,
whatever. You would
yeah,
move on, not think about it, maybe think I was a little weird, but they know it's true. That's why they're so mad.
yeah.
And it's like, change it. It's something you have control over, you know?
And you deliver this to them. What's the response for when you do this? Because you will do a post with this makeup on.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So
Do you
it's
take
fun.
questions and then do you look in the comments and respond in full? Republican woman makeup?
Yeah, I will. And the funny thing is, sometimes I'll have Republicans ask me questions in good faith, and I'll give them advice. Like I've said from the beginning, I want the people ruining our country to look good. I don't want them to be terrible and ugly. Right? We always were taught that the popular kids would be the ones, running the world and like ruining things, and when in fact it's just like these dorks who can't do their makeup properly. I want them to look better as they do these things. But yeah, I'll respond, and I will say there are some that have a good sense of humor and are like, this was actually really helpful for me to learn how to do my makeup better. But now that they've seen the video, because their algorithms are like 4 months behind, they're all for the most part, conservatives are very angry about it, but I have no problem responding to them in this makeup. I think it's hilarious.
I got to tell you that if you came on and I was speaking to you, I would think you would come on as a Republican woman,
Yeah,
and that's what you would look like.
yeah,
Just like that. And
yeah,
even the women who are in cable news, they do this makeup.
they do, and they all look exactly the same. And I feel like it just shows a lack of artistic knowledge and a lack of willingness to learn something new and to learn new techniques.
Suzanne, can I ask you this? Why
Yeah,
are makeup artists doing this? Because they are makeup artists at Fox News and other places, and these women are going when they're going places. They're actually getting their makeup done, and a professional is doing
yeah,
this. So it's
yeah.
something that they want to look like they. What is? I think there's like a Miss Clairol, or there's a blonde color number that everybody gets,
Right.
right? And then there's sort of a
Yes.
makeup look that everybody. So why are professionals doing this?
And it's funny you mentioned that. I've made videos about one of the makeup artists that does a lot of the people's makeup in the White House. I think it's like any other profession where if you're not brushing up on knowledge and new skills, you're just going to keep doing things the same old way. And because their clientele isn't knowledgeable enough to know that they should be doing it a different way, it just carries on forever like that, I think.
Where do you think this gets you? Where does this get liberals, or what does this do? Are you looking for, something that helps win elections, or are you just looking for, hey, you know what, this is funny. I'm an observer. I happen to be liberal, and I'm just pointing out what's in the world.
I'm glad you asked that. Yeah, totally. There's always an angle, right? I think a big part of it for me is showing people that liberals do have a sense of humor, right? Maybe we haven't always let that shine through, or maybe we haven't always come off that way, but there is a sense of humor here. There is a sense of community, right? We're all able to laugh at this kind of thing, because if there's one thing I think they do a lot better of on the right, even if it's a false sense of community, there is a large belonging aspect, right? That's their church and their politics, everything are all intertwined. So I think it helps build belonging and laughter for people on our side, especially in a time where people feel defeated and scared and hopeless with a lot that's going on in the White House. So that's part one. I think part two, embarrassment is a good political tool. Knowing or seeing that Caroline Levitt has changed her makeup no less than a dozen times since I started making these videos, knowing I'm probably in her head. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I get tagged in them all the time where people are like, "Look, she listened to you. She fixed her bronzer." Um I, I want to rattle them a little bit. The more that we can rattle them and get in their heads as they're doing these terrible things, I think is good. And then I think three, look, Republicans love making fun of people, right? So maybe there's somewhere in here where this is grabbing people's attention, whether that's people on the right or people who have been apolitical because they find politics to be really boring and cumbersome and confusing. Maybe this is the hook that engages more of those people who previously have not been uninterested. But mostly I think it's just hilarious, and I like laughing at these people, um, and we'll continue to do that despite them reporting all of my videos.
I'm so glad, because I saw Caroline Levitt, and look, I'm a man. I'm sure someone will criticize me for this, but when I see her and just the makeup, I'm like, they said she's 27 years old, and I'm like, wait a minute, that's not 27-year-old makeup.
No. Yeah, and I'm like, look, like I said, I want her to look good. I think as the press secretary, your makeup should look good.
It
I
makes her
mean,
look older.
Yeah, totally. It makes her look older, and I don't think she's ugly. I think she's a pretty girl,
I think
right?
she's not a bad looking woman. It
I've
just makes her
never
look
said
like
she's
she's 40
ugly.
instead of 27, right?
Yeah, would like to point that out, by the way, because
Yeah,
people say all these things. I'm like, I've never said anything about anyone's weight. I've never called anyone ugly. I don't criticize their actual features. All that I talk about is
their makeup.
things, choices that they're making, right?
I love that. Look, I think that it's interesting when you said that you realize that you have a certain privilege because I notice, like, I will get stereotyped for certain things and just by pointing out the facts, right? And sometimes
Yeah.
just like, oh my gosh, you guys are idiots or whatever.
Yeah.
But like have you heard of the I've Had It With podcast?
Yes. Oh, people tag them all the time. Yeah.
So I think that you guys have, you sort of, you have this, I don't know if it's carte blanche, but you can do those things and it's more acceptable, and people are able to, it's more appetizing for people because you kind of are from the
Yeah.
people you're making fun of. Do you understand what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Or
Totally.
not even the people you're making fun of, the people you're criticizing. Because the women on I've Had It With can be way more critical and way more negative about the administration than I am. But they'll say that I am angry and mean and a lefty and, dangerous. But they won't say that about, two little blonde ladies who are criticizing the administration. Do you understand
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
Oh, I totally do. Yeah. And I think
Like hiding in plain sight.
absolutely. And that's also why I got ahead of all of it by calling myself a mean girl, right? Because normally the response to this, and don't get me wrong, and I make fun of them all the time, there are lots of people in my comment section in a competition for world's best white feminist who love to tell me how what I'm doing is terrible. And I'm like, I think it's sick that you guys entered that competition. I imagine the prize is like an Ann Taylor factory gift card, given how excited you guys are about it. But I didn't enter that competition. Leave your thesis statement in your drafts. I don't care. I just don't care. And no amount of you commenting is going to make me care. I think y'all are insane that these people are making ASMR deportation videos for fun. And you're mad at me for saying they look ugly. Like that, you're crazy to me.
Yeah.
Right. But no, I think I can talk to them and about them just given my position being a woman from the South. Right. I used to be conservative and I'm super open about that too. But I will say the only people who have really ever gotten mad at my content are white women across the political spectrum.
Yeah.
It's not black folks mad at me. It's not queer folks, trans. It's none of them. It's liberal white women and conservative white women, which I find very interesting.
Yeah. Well, look, you're going to think it's weird, maybe, but I think that you're an inspiration for people like me because it makes me realize I've been, I was in this sort of corporate structure for so long. You can't insult people. You got to be careful. You can't just, you know what? Yeah, you can. And
Yeah.
you have to meet people where they are. And I believe you have to hold up a mirror and you also have to respond to them with the same energy that they give to you.
And it's so funny to have these conversations as I look like this.
I know,
uh,
but actually, look, and I don't mean this in a sexist way. You're a very beautiful woman, and you look even in bad Republican lady makeup, you somehow make it beautiful.
No, I
Yeah.
love a compliment. I always tell people never be shy to give me a compliment, please. They fuel me. But
But I do recognize that makeup, and you are 100% right. You're onto something, Suzanne Lambert.
right, I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us, and keep doing what you're doing, and come back. Okay, we're gonna come back and interview you in your non-Republican lady makeup. All right.
Please, I will come back anytime. This was so much fun, Don. Thank you.
Take care, Suzanne Lambert. Everyone loved it.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone for watching. Your support means the world to us. So make sure you hit the like button and you subscribe to our channel to make sure that you never ever miss a video. We're live every day, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. We drop even more content at 2 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Eastern. And if you want more Don Lemon Show content, we'd love for you to become a member of the Lemon community, where you will receive access to special community posts. You'll get exclusive content and members only live shows. So head over to our channel page or click the join button on this video. Again, thank you for watching. We appreciate your love and your support, and we will see you next time.